Hello and welcome to the Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexi, and today we have a interesting guest. It's Remy Durieux from Remy's Real Estate. How you going there, Remy?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thanks very much for making the time to be here, mate. You've
Pleasure.
got quite a different business in terms of real estate. It is quite different in terms of my understanding as to how most real estates work. So tell us how you got into the real estate. What's your background, and how did you decide to go with this business?
Okay, so my background is quite all over the place. I studied engineering and physics, got a bachelor degree in materials engineering, but didn't like any of the jobs that I could get, not because of financials, but more about I wasn't connected to people, and there's very little. It was more like research and very little people interaction. So I do what any new bachelor engineering student does. I went into hospitality. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed that because there was a lot of people, and I got really good at it. And then I became a sommelier, learned a lot about wines and all that stuff, and service. So I ended up in a really high quality, extremely expensive resort where I looked after, international superstars. And so from my first job in hospitality was Express Cafe. So all the way from that to there. So, that doesn't come easy, but I really enjoyed it. So service, uh, you know, um, it, it's fantastic how we can connect to giving good service at the table, connect to giving good service in real estate. It's just crazy. But it's just being good to people, communication, all that stuff are really useful skills in my game now. So then I went to real estate, did about three big brands before I did my own. So I started about 6.5 years ago, and 3.5 years ago I started, 2.5 years ago I started Remy's Real Estate. So um, I wasn't doing anything too crazy at first with the big brands, but once it got to me being on my own, I was like, look, this is not working for me. I want to do something different. So we started doing very quirky, different kind of videos, and we started absolutely nailing the social media advertising side of things, and mixing the two. We've had really good feedback, and about videos being different, and also bad feedback, but that's normal. Every time you try and do something different, you always that. But really good feedback overall, and fantastic results because we do get amazing exposure online. We are different, and if people watch 10 videos that day, they are very, very likely to remember ours the most, and that's what made a big difference. So um, that's probably about my journey until now.
Wow. Well, that's really quite something. I mean, going all the way from hospitality to real estates and doing so many stuff. That's awesome, mate. That's really really cool. And if I remember correctly, you've done some work with some superstars as a result of that. In fact, some very successful people. Gina Reinhardt, if I remember correctly, right? You've done some work for her.
Yep, yep. So Gina was one of them. We looked after her for a little bit, and these kind of people, they expect a lot, and if you're not there when they expect a lot, then they let you know. And so it just shows that from looking after a casual table at a Hot Express Cafe to looking after Gina Reinhardt, you don't get there very easily. But all you need is good people skills, really good quality of service, and common sense. And I do think that I applied a lot of that to real estate. It's not hard to communicate, but crazy enough, most agents won't give you a call back when you do call them. So it's just little things that made a big difference for me. And looking after these people who have very, very high expectations, it has been a massive help for me.
Yeah. Well, look, I think with your real estate business and your social media in particular, it's a very high level. And if you guys haven't seen this, if you're listening to this, go check out Remy's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I think he's everywhere. But the content is definitely quite professional. I think his approach is really quite good. I do quite like your attention to detail. I'm not sure if this is a part of your cultural background, and whatever it is, mate, it is quite something. In terms of the cultural background, mate, you're born in Tahiti, is that right?
No, I was born in France, but I moved to Tahiti when I was very young. So
Wow.
born in south of France, moved to Tahiti when I was just a kid, grew up there, and went back to France for a little while, hated it, and moved straight back to Australia. So
Okay.
um, yeah.
Has speaking French helped you with your real estate in any way, or within your career, or within your career path for that matter?
Not really, to be honest. There's not too many speakers here French that are involved in real estate. Most of them are, in and out, working holiday visas. Yes, I've had some transactions. Pros, I had clients in French or buyers in speaking in French as well. So it has been useful a couple of times, but it hasn't been one of the most, important things to get me to where I am.
Hmm. So, in terms of your approach, let's talk about that for a minute. You specialize in real estate in a particular area, and I quite like that because you're obviously being niche specific. Can you tell us a little bit about why you've chosen that and how that's actually worked for you?
Yes, so I picked the Carina and all the surrounding suburbs here in 4152 because I really, first of all, I live here, but secondly, I think it's emerging suburbs that have a lot of qualities, great for families, lots of good potential for growth, really well connected to the city, the M1, it's got Westfield. So I think it's got huge potential to be here. And also, when I first started here, agents didn't really care about this suburb. And I strongly believe that what myself and my team have done for the suburb has gone into, we were part of what's gone it, to where it is now. And now I think we were one of the, I saw an article last week that saying that Carina, for example, was one of the highest growth suburbs and a lot more potential as well. So highly sought after now, and that's really, exciting to see.
Mm. Well, I find overall that with suburbs like that, and overall the approach like that, being the bigger fish in a smaller pond works out quite well. And I think this is really comes back to people wanting to work with a specialist as opposed to a generalist. So if you're going to work with somebody who specializes in a particular area, it makes them sort of trust them more. It sort of makes them sort of
Yeah.
realize that the person knows other things around the suburb as well. So with this approach, can you tell us about maybe some of the challenges you would have experienced
In terms of
in terms of
but
setting yourself up to work in this particular area, your marketing that followed through that as well? What sort of challenges have you sort of come across as a real estate agent, new in the area, to get to where you are right now?
look, it's really difficult to get started, and it's not, really need to get the runs on the board to be able to be trusted in a suburb. So, there are very big brands on there. People still call Ray White and just get the first agent that picks up the phone. So, we are against big brands. We are, we're completely independent. We're number one in the suburb, which is absolutely exceptional, I think. And there's big brands after us who are trying to tackle us, and we'll do our best not to get there. But the biggest challenges have been to be against those big brands who have very different budgets than we do in terms of prospecting themselves. And, they are trusted in the world out there. Doesn't mean that when it comes to the phone, whatever agent they're going to get given on that day is going to be the best agent for them. But that's just what they do. They just call the main line and get whoever. So that's been a big challenge. And being an independent agency is a challenge in itself. Like to position ourselves against massive corporation isn't easy. But we did that very well, and that's by being very unique and different that we're doing now. We didn't want to be just a normal agent that you call off, and that's just not us. So yeah, that's been the biggest challenge, being against the big brands and not having the budgets that they do have to prospect. So but we're doing really well now, and I think that just shows how much work we've put into this, myself and my team. And And I think the word of mouth about our service and social media and attention detail you're mentioning, like, there's not a photo that we put on the market that we don't look at to make sure it's perfect. And I can tell you that's not the case for a lot of listings. And yeah, everything combined, we've done really well.
Okay. Excellent. And in relation to COVID, how did that go? Obviously, you started a business, and halfway through your journey, if we sort of wind back 6.5 years ago, you would have hit COVID. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about how that
Yeah.
experience was? Because obviously there was a lot of uncertainty at the beginning, and then the whole property market in Australia started going through the roof. So tell us how COVID was for you.
So I started my business in September 2021,
Oh, okay.
2020, 2020.
Okay.
So right when COVID was it was in the middle of the mix. So I wanted to go on my own, and it's not easy to do that. It takes a bit of a courage or craziness, if you ask me. But I wanted to go on my own for a few months before that, and we didn't have a baby at the time, and we knew we wanted babies down the track. I was like, well, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? It's all easy to take risks when it's just two people here and two incomes. When it is, having a baby and stuff, and you have a lot more to risk. So I decided I'm going to go all in. And obviously I had a few clients that wanted to sign me up straight away, so that was awesome. So we got in, and it was kind of a perfect storm because I went on to my own business, and people have a lot of respect for people who do their own thing and take the courage to do their own business, and I recognize that. And also the whole real estate market went crazy a couple of months after I did that. So it was kind of a perfect storm, and all the results that we got from that and word of mouth and reviews got us to where we are today.
Excellent. So the timing was perfectly made. Well, I think that was a well
It was
executed.
lucky. It was
Okay.
lucky.
Well, you know what some people say about the word luck. It's all about location, understanding, connections and knowledge, mate. I think, yeah, you may underestimate that. But anyway, so if you were to sort of give any tips or advice to some aspiring real estate agents, people who are just maybe starting out, because I'm sure a lot of people could relate, maybe working for somebody else or wanting to build a career in real estate, what sort of tips would you give them?
I would say the first few years are great to spend with a big brand, because they do give you the basics. They do give you that foot in the door, and to go with your own business, you do need to have a lot of traction to be able to do that, because once you do, it's really hard there's no coming back. If you're coming back, it means that you failed. So at the point where after a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, whatever, it does take a while to create a profile unless you have amazing connections. I didn't have any connection in Brisbane, so I was literally starting from ground zero. So that was very difficult. Me and my wife put all our savings into this, so it wasn't easy. But when you're at the point of going into your own business, to have a lot of tractions necessary, to have quite a bit of savings as well, and yeah, to market yourself differently. If you're going to do an independent agency and you're just the same as a big brand, I don't think you're going to be successful. And that's why we're doing things differently. Not only because it works for our clients and we're getting, I can see, very, very superior results in any way possible, but it makes a difference for us too, in a way that people call us and be like, I want you to come and sell my house because I love the way you do things. So, if they don't like our style, they're not going to call us, and that's completely fine. But the people that call us, most of the time, we go in and we have no competition at the table, and that's because they want us. They know we're different, and they know we're getting the results that we're getting.
Excellent. Well, that's always good to hear. And in terms of your marketing, I've obviously noticed some of your billboards. Actually, before I met you, there's big billboards with you swimming in a swimming pool, mate. That's not something that a lot of real estate agents will put out there. I mean, you sort of get a little bit tired of those suits and the tie and that sort of feel. I
Exactly.
mean, tell me about your approach to that. I mean, you've done a few things different with the bus stops and everything else as well. I mean, what's your overall theme and how did you sort of come up with that?
Again, it comes back to being unique, Alexi, because right? So I tell my clients, I advise them to do something a bit different, a different video, different type of marketing, different social media approach. So I think it would be unfair to ask them to do that, and I don't do it. So for the same thing, if you're going to pass 10 bus stops, if you only remember mine, I'll be very happy with that. And it's the same thing we apply to properties. So same thing I apply to my clients, I apply to myself. Um, we always say people, oh, your bus stops are so different. We always see that all the time. And all the other agents, their photos from 10 years ago, and they, their office brand and whatever, and that's it, and just a phone number. I think that's pretty boring personally, and I don't think that if you drive 10 past one, I won't remember any of them. So we're
Mm,
just trying to be unique, to do different marketing, to put a smile on people's face, and yeah, that's just come down to that. So we've got a couple more coming up, which are going to be quite funny.
cool.
Um, and the feedback's always been really great on that. So I'll give you an example. We just got a call from a cinema who said, "Would you like to do local advertising?" I said, "Sure." So look, uh, I don't drive past a certain road, but my wife does, and she says, if you need an ad, you need to call this guy because he loves to do different things, and so that puts up on a map, I think quite a lot.
Cool. Awesome. Well, mate, I love that. I think, if you want a better business, and this is what my podcast is about, you need to do things differently. And a lot of the time people
Absolutely.
are afraid to do things differently because they're afraid to fail. But I would advise,
Comfort zone.
anyone to really stretch their comfort zone and try things at least. And most importantly, understand what works and what doesn't, because that's the only way to make things better, mate. Absolutely love that. So, a bit of a crystal ball question for you. So, what do you reckon the future of real estate is looking like in relation to the real estate as a market? What do you think that's going to be like in the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, we've had quite a lot of people trying to sell properties online with virtual inspections and so on. And I would have thought that this would be the future, but for some reason that hasn't really lasted that long once all the lockdowns have finished. What do you reckon the future of real estate is going to be like?
I think agents will still be heavily involved. It will come down to new technologies coming out, which we'll be using. But we're testing a couple of things at the moment for new stuff. Um, I I believe that having an agent is a human face, and I've seen so many people trying to sell their own homes, and I can tell you it does never ends well. And when you ask them, did you get a good price? They're like, oh, not really, but I saved the commission. I say, yep, you might have saved a fair few thousands of dollars, but you also sold for 100 grand less. What's the point? I've seen it so many times, and it's very important as well to know that most buyers do not want to deal with the owner. So, they can put it online or whatever, but who's going to run the open house? Who's going to do the callbacks? I answer my calls 24/7, right? If I'm aware, I still answer my call. We get so many inquiries between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. every single night. I can tell you that most homeowners wouldn't want to do that on Sundays, on Saturday. So what we do in terms of marketing presentation, I don't think can be replaced by anything online anytime soon. No one's going to give you advice on how to present, what renovations to do, all that stuff, and that's got a lot of value. We've done a lot of renovations, and there's nothing online that could really help you do that. Um, so yeah, I think real estate agents will play a massive part of what's coming, but the ones who embrace new technologies will be will be there, and we are definitely there, and we'll be definitely here in 5 or 10 years.
Excellent. Well, mate, I absolutely love that. I think just to sort of add something to what you said, it's more about people doing business with people, right? So people love
Absolutely.
doing business with people. And as an analogy, I guess you can go and buy a coffee from a coffee machine, but most people prefer to go to a coffee shop. And most of the time, it's about the person who's actually selling. So, and this actually what differentiates the good and the bad coffee shops. You go to a place where people not only make a good coffee, that's the default, right? But then there
Hmm.
is a good, vibrant person who's able to sort of put a smile on your face and make you feel good about the place. And that's
Remember
why
your
people,
name.
exactly, exactly. And that's why people would, walk for 10 minutes as opposed to go to a place that's a minute away. And it does become a part of their day. So that is
Or
just a,
buy an espresso machine.
well, exactly. And if you think that if we were all buying espresso machines, that would put coffee shops out of business, well, that's really not the case, because the whole thing does have a completely different dimension to it. Mate, absolutely love it. I think you've covered some really good tips. And overall, I do admire businesses like yours and take off my hat for doing this, going on your own, stretching your comfort zone, making it happen, and then committing to it as well. I personally wish your business a big, bright future. I think whichever way you want to take it, mate, it's all possible. It's just a matter of doing things better and different. So,
Absolutely.
Remy, thanks very much for finding the time to join me on this podcast. Would love to hear from you in a couple of years and see how Remy Real Estate's taken over Australia. For those of you listening, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you comment below if you got any questions. I'll pass them on to Remy if he doesn't see them. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. And if you like this sort of stuff, make sure you come back to us with some feedback as well. Remy, absolutely, thankful for you to find the time to be with us. And have a good day.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.